Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margo, Donohue, and Sonia Mansfield, talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margo Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Well, hello, my friend. You're wondering, it's like new and old this episode. We are replaying an episode because we're taking a week off in between seasons 19 and 20.
What?
What the hell?
This show is just one more season away from being legally able to drink in this country.
We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. And what's funny is we recorded this episode a couple of years ago, and all these creeps be creeping still. So we felt like it's kind of evergreen. You need reminders of why these people suck. It's comedy creeps. We have Russell Brand. We have Chris D'Elia. We have Victoria Jackson. And then Chris from, what was that comedy Chris that does the Nerd podcast, The Nerdist?
Oh, Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick. I want to apologize, y'all. I got a new kitten a few days ago, and I'm not getting any sleep. I'm like...
It's easy to forget Chris Hardwick. We all want to forget Chris Hardwick. It's totally fine.
He's just an and there, because like Russell Brand is... the last few years has embraced conspiracy theories, and
he's gotten worse.
He's gotten actually worse. He talks about things like corporate media when he himself is corporate media. Oh, the irony of all that shit.
Russell Brand is so gross. He's just gross.
And okay, we could disagree about what he talks about on the show now, on his show now, but his past creepiness is on record, and that's why we're talking about it today.
Yeah.
Chris D'Elia, still out there booking club gigs. God knows fucking why, but we'll remind you why he sucks, and we knew that a long time ago.
Yes.
And Victoria Jackson, that lunatic, is still attacking gay people all these years later.
It's bananas. Like, everything old is new again.
Exactly. So that's why we're going to be replaying the episode. And just so you know, in case you don't know this, we do have social media. We have a basic Facebook page, and that's a place where people go to complain about our language. We do use a lot of salty language, if you haven't figured that out already.
Yeah, fucking deal with it.
Yeah. Private Facebook group. That's where we're absolutely the most interactive. We talk about creeps. We talk about things going on in the news. We share pictures of our pets. It's really nice. Not our parts, our pets.
It's not our parts, our pet parts. It is the best group on Facebook.
You do have to ask to join. It's What a Creep podcast group. It's 3 easy questions you should be able to answer, including the one like, do you just promise not to be a shithead when you get there?
Yeah. Hey, don't be a dick when you get into the group, and if you can't agree to that, then what are we even doing here?
Let's not waste each other's time, okay? We're on Twitter at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for 10 years before our favorite creep, Elon, took it over. So that... Creep. Anyway, Instagram, What a Creep Podcast. Follow us there. We also have old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. We put all of our sources in the show notes. You just swipe the artwork. You can find this shit out for yourselves. Don't add us. We're giving you the news.
We're just sharing what's already out there, y'all. We give credit where credit is due. And if you want to do a deeper dive, go through the show links and read all the stuff. We didn't make this shit up.
And if you want to help support us, we do have a Patreon page like everybody does. Look, this just costs money. Getting the news sources, getting the software, getting all this shit going. And I want to thank the following people who left us. So please, Patreon, Patreon. We have our first few seasons. This is actually on the Patreon wall, this episode. We took it out for freezies with ads.
Yes.
But it does help us also. But, if you just want to help us out and you're tired, you're not sure if you want to subscribe, just leave us a review wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe. And we want to thank the following people for the 5-star reviews. Emerisian from France, I believe. Yes. And also KK Dupes from the US of A. Best English speaking podcast out there.
Hey, that's nice to hear.
Merci beaucoup, France. We appreciate that.
Merci beaucoup. That's how Pee Wee Herman would pronounce it.
All right. So without further ado, just so you know, next week we will have a brand new episode, and we always are looking for suggestions for creeps and non-creeps.
Non-creeps.
Please let us know. We do mention some non-creeps in comedy, by the way, in this episode. I forget who they are, but they are there. I know that. I put that in the show notes. Okay, so it'll be new for all of us when we listen to this episode. Thank you all so much for your support. We really, really do appreciate it. Y'all are the best. And here we go with our replay of Comedy Creeps, Season 8, Episode 1. So welcome to Season 8, by the way. And what we do with every new season is the first episode, I kind of like to call it a slice of creepitude or a quartet of creeps. We pick 4 creeps. We just kind of do a mini story on all of them, and they all could deserve their own episode. But we just sort of like, little sections, little morsels of creepitude for you. And today it's going to be what we've done before is rock creeps, movie creeps, my favorite talk show creeps. Yes. That was a really good one. Today we're doing comedy creeps. Yay!
How do we narrow it down?
We went back and forth, guys. I know. But at the end of the show, I know I picked somebody who's not a creep. Did you pick a not creep for the...
Yes, I did.
Okay. That way we will end the show. You guys won't feel like everything is a toxic waste dump. You won't feel the need to purge your bodies. Okay. Are we ready, Sonia?
I'm really trying to think of a clever name for what like a gaggle of comedy creeps would be. Is it like a murder of creeps?
Oh, that's a good question.
A gang of comedy creeps? And I don't know. I'm going to keep pondering it.
I think like an open mic of assholes.
I love it. I think that's great. We have an open mic of assholes on this show. Good one.
So I'm going to start. My first one is going to be Russell Brand, and we always give our sources because we don't want to get sued, and we want you guys to know that this is all real. So first is a YouTube clip. It's from the Russell Brand show. It's a radio show where they pulled a prank on an actor, Andrew Sachs. New Music Express, Salon, Telegraph, Alternative Press, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post UK, and 2 books, Sonia. My Bookie Wook by Russell Brand.
Nice name.
And Bookie Wook 2 by Russell Brand.
Oh.
And if I ever meet him in person, I'm going to punch him in the balls for just picking those twee names for that dumb books.
It's so stupid. It's my Bookie Wook.
I'm cute, get it?
It's my Bookie Wookie. Shut up.
All right, so here we go, that asshole. Russell Edward Brand was born June 4th, 1975. Comedian, actor, writer, podcaster. He is probably best known in the U.S. for his roles in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek. And in England, he's been famous forever, for at least like 20 years. Stand-up comic, and he's had a lot of specials on MTV there. In his early years as a performer, he admits to having multiple drug, alcohol, and sex addiction issues. By the way, Sonia, where he went for his sex addiction was in this house in Chester, Pennsylvania, where I used to ride my bike by all the time. So who knew that there were, that was going on in there. I had no idea.
He was in there watching you.
No. Oh, we make it a policy. We don't call somebody a creep because they have an addiction or they're an addict. That shit is real. It's difficult to treat. We're not going after him for anything related to his addictions, just so you know. But there are plenty of reasons to call him a dickhead without going into that stuff, and that's what I'm going to do today. And mostly focusing on his lazy sexism.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. 2008, he hosted the Russell Brand Show on BBC Radio. He featured interviews with celebrity guests. And one day, he co-hosted with, I love they call this in England, a presenter. It's just somebody that's on I bet I said that right, too. But it's just somebody who's on TV a lot. It's Jonathan Ross. Do you remember him? Because they try to make him a thing here in America.
The name is familiar. I can't picture him in my head.
Every once in a while, England tries to foist somebody on us, like Piers Morgan. And sometimes they win. Like I liked I like Eddie, I love Eddie Izzard. He's pretty great. I like Graham Norton.
I love him.
Graham Norton's great. Yeah, they tried this with Jonathan Ross. I think he had a show on VH1. Do you remember? It was a talk show and he interviewed, I'll never forget this. He interviewed Cindy Crawford. And, when Cindy Crawford was like a big supermodel.
Yeah.
She was promoting a calendar. And he said to her, well, I don't think the boys that buy this will put it on their walls. And she said, yeah, I think we were even joking about maybe we should just laminate them instead. I know. But he goes, do you kiss your mother with that mouth? I'm like, she's playing a joke. She's playing along. You're telling her that she's spank material, and then she kind of goes with it, and you got to give her a heart. Anyway.
Right.
I've never liked him since then. I'm just like, oh, fuck you, Jonathan Ross. Anyway.
I know.
He's on the radio there. He's considered an English institution, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd hate to think that. But anyway, Russell Brand was going to call an actor, Andrew Sachs, who played Manuel on Fawlty Towers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in his 70s at this point. He did a bunch of stuff. But when they rang him, it went straight to his voicemail. And at first, Russell Brand was leaving, kind of he's super hyper when he talks and he's got all that energy. I also have to admit, you guys, sometimes I have no fucking idea what he's saying because he speaks so quickly. But anyway, he starts talking and he's, hello, we'll have you on the show, blah, blah. You can find this clip on YouTube very easily, by the way. While he's leaving a message, Jonathan Ross jumps in and says, guess what? He fucked your granddaughter. Brand laughs and then starts riffing on it. They hang up and they call back the number 2 times and they just continue the joke. And it's sort of like a Howard Stern wannabe kind of crap. It's just super loud and noisy. Mr. Sachs is 78 at the time. By the way, his granddaughter was someone, Georgina Bailey. She did date him for a little while, but she didn't want her father to know because he had kind of a wild reputation. Or most likely the rest of England to know about it. I mean, I think you can have a fling with somebody and you don't have to make a big deal about it. And so they kept calling and it was about 10 minutes, whatever. Here's the thing. The interview was taped. All of this was just taped. They didn't have to air it. They aired it anyway. Leslie Douglas is a woman who worked for the BBC and had a shine for him or whatever. She let it on. Nobody said anything for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, the BBC started getting thousands of complaints about the interview. In the long run, Jonathan Ross was suspended without pay for 12 weeks. Leslie Douglas, she resigned, and then Russell, he resigned. And he sort of apologized for his behavior at the time. But in his 2011 book, Bookie Wookie 2, he says, I improvised a barbershop a cappella apology. Now, I know what we did was wrong, but for a moment, can you get past that and see this brilliant improvised song? These are some of the lyrics. I said some things that I didn't have oughta, like having sex with your granddaughter, but it was consensual and she wasn't menstrual. It was full of respect and I sent her a text. I know. It's like, it's not even funny. It's just stupid. It was called Saxgate at the time. And everybody, the Daily Mail and all these people get upset. And they're all upset because of Andrew Sachs. But like, nobody mentions Georgina in all of this.
I know.
And
I'm like, thanks. He's shaming her.
Totally shaming her.
It sucks.
It totally sucks. So that's in 2011. He didn't even mention, like, nobody acknowledges this. He apologized to her eventually in like 2018 and she accepted it. But she was like, why the fuck did it take you this long to get to this point? But okay. In the last chapter of Bookie Wookie, Bookie Wook probably. I hate this guy. He talks about meeting Katy Perry at the MTV Awards, and you remember he like hosted that,
I absolutely remember this.
They had a whirlwind romance, and they got married in a Hindu ceremony, which is a big fucking deal, by the way. You don't just have a Hindu ceremony; it's kind of a big deal. They were only married for 14 months. She was 25, he was 32. They had problems in their relationship pretty early, and he was arrested a few times for battery, claiming that paparazzis were being too pushy and stuff like that. Like Sean Penn and Madonna. Like Sean Penn had to fight photographers. I'm like, yeah, you married the most popular woman in the world. What do you think's going to happen, dummy? So she said that he didn't like her being the boss of things and that he was not into an equal partnership. And when he told her he was filing for divorce, he did it via text right before she was going on stage.
Oh, What an asshole.
He's such a fucking asshole.
What an asshole.
It's included in her documentary. You guys can find that clip too on YouTube, but it's called Part of Me. But this poor woman, like, she gets that, and then she has to go on stage and sing and be Katy Perry for 2 hours. And it was devastating.
I haven't seen the documentary, but I remember, so my sister, Michelle, who's probably listening. Hi, Michelle.
Hey.
She watched that documentary, and she told me about that part specifically. And we were like, what a fucking asshole. Like, what an asshole. And Michelle was saying, like, Katy Perry was doing all the work. Like, she was performing in a city and then hopping on a plane and flying to wherever he was to, like, make shit work. And, like, even though she was touring, he wasn't. Like, he could go with her, but he wouldn't. So she would, like, just fly from wherever she was to be with him to, like, make it work. And he didn't return the favor. He sounds like a real prick.
He's very selfish. He's very narcissistic. He's very self-centered. He has to be the star.
Yes.
And I think in a lot of ways, like, she was young, she's beautiful, she's rich. I will give him this one bit of credit. He wouldn't take any money for the marriage, what they made throughout the marriage. Like, it was like $40 million or something. He wouldn't take a penny. So, okay. At least he did that correctly.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. In the last few years, he's become more politically active and spiritual. He married Laura Gallagher, and they have 2 young daughters. He hosts this podcast called Under the Skin with Russell Brand, and he likes to give speeches now on YouTube about political and pop culture events. In 2014, he told Vanity Fair that while he behaved like a sexist in the past, he was now moving on to a better life. So in 2019, he said in an interview he cannot be left alone with his daughters because his parenting is not so good, and that he leaves the changing of diapers and the eating and the meal prep to his wife because he is more romantic and reflective.
Mm-hmm. That's ladies' work.
Yeah, it's exactly it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Women are built for that.
That.
He talks a lot about women in a very old-fashioned way. Like, you're soft and you're nurturing and you're blah, 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 blah. It's such bullshit.
Yeah.
He also, for years, this big political guy, he was a proponent for not voting and saying that I know.
Fuck?
I can't make heads or tails of this. And he goes on, and I can't understand him. He uses crazy words and makes a big word soup everywhere he goes. But he just, like, he thinks that both candidates are bad and terrible, and everything needs to be.
Fuck these people. Fuck people that are like, both candidates are. Fuck off.
It's always, and it's just like lame white males who lose nothing, right? It's the rest of us that yeah. So that's one of his things, and also he really likes to talk about women and their sexuality, and that in August of this year, he made a 17-minute video critique of Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion for WAP, their song Wet Ass Pussy.
That song is awesome, by the way.
I love it.
It's so good.
Well, he acts as if he understands hip-hop culture and sexism and women having agency over themselves, but they then mansplains that, well, Margaret Thatcher didn't behave this way. Like, she didn't help women because she worked with men, and that Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are really just doing what the men have been doing for years. So they're not doing anything new, so it's nothing interesting or feminist.
Wrong.
It's such bullshit. It really made me. It makes
it's total bullshit.
It's so. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's bullshit. Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck him. And Margaret Thatcher, fuck her. We should have her on the list.
Yeah, no shit. I'm like, that's who you're bringing into this argument.
It's just so. He's so fucking tedious. It's just like there's no way women can enjoy their own sensuality in and of itself, right?
You bring Margaret Thatcher to a Cardi B fight? Please.
Ugh, God. And basically he calls the video porn.
Well, that's on you.
Yeah.
Don't watch it then. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe this... Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Not everything's for you.
Right. Exactly.
Guess what? like, everyone's like, well, like all these people that were bitching about like Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel, and I was like, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah,
that's okay. You have plenty of other things, dude. There's a lot of music videos out there. Enjoy. What a prick.
He's such a prick. Now, there are rumors about him that are way more unsavory, let's just say. And I have a feeling we will talk about him one day in a full episode. I'm just kind of not in the mood to get sued by anybody.
Yeah.
So I just like, if we hear one day worse stuff, let me just say this. I'm not going to be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just put it like that.
Yeah. We have a couple people on our list that we're just like, we're waiting.
Yeah. In our hip pocket.
Like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, we're waiting for like someone else to publish the shit.
Right.
So that we can use it as a source.
Yeah.
Because we know. Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
So that's our first
He's a real
creep.
prick.
Yeah, he's a real prick. Our first creep, Russell Brand.
You did research for that. You had to read Bookie Wookie or whatever the fuck that is.
I had
That's
a couple
terrible.
of, you know what? I'll have to say to you, I had a couple of long nights, and so I'm like, oh, I'll just, creep always makes me happy because it just gets out my anger. And that book totally did that for me. I was like hate reading it on my little Kindle. Like, he's being cute and twee again. Fuck this.
Ugh. He's like such a good one for this kind of episode too, because he's not quite ready for like a full episode, but he's enough of an asshole that we could talk about him.
Yep.
I love it. Do you want to hear my first creep?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm going to talk about Chris Hardwick. Yeah, I have Chloe Dykstra's Medium post. That's my main source. I have a couple of articles from The Wrap, The Mary Sue Time, and of course our good friends at Wikipedia. There's a trigger warning here for anorexia and sexual abuse. So if these things are very, very upsetting to you, maybe you skip ahead or come back when you're ready, because it's important you take care of yourself. So Chris Hardwick, comedian, probably best known for hosting Singled Out on MTV with another creep, Jenny McCarthy. He's the founder of Nerdist and the host of AMC's Talking Dead. His thing was kind of like, nerds are cool. And they are, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
Usually. I would say, yeah, they are. But he's also a creep who's been accused of emotional and sexual abuse by his ex-girlfriend, Chloe Dykstra. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. He's Christopher Ryan Hardwick, born in Louisville, Kentucky on November 23rd, 1971. His father was Billy Hardwick. He was a professional bowler, which I was like, what? Professional bowler. And then his mom, Sharon, was a real estate agent. He studied philosophy at UCLA. And I'm like, of course he did.
Fuck, oh God, yes. Sorry. That's triggering for me, philosophy majors.
Totally, me too. Oh my gosh. I was like, honestly, there's a lot of little trigger things in this one. So I'm going to try to keep it in check. He graduated in 1983. He was roommates with Will Wheaton back in the day. They met at a screening of Arachnophobia, so they were roommates and best friends for like a really long time. He worked as a DJ in Los Angeles for K-Rock, which is a super famous radio station down there. Mm-hmm. He did that in the mid-90s, and he also hosted something on MTV called Trashed, which I never watched. Did you watch that one?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, it was a show in which contestants would answer trivia questions, and if they got something wrong, their belongings would be destroyed.
Oh, that sounds fun.
I know. I'm like, who signs up for that shit? By the way, side note, there's a show on MTV right now where people are like getting like revenge tattoos and shit, like bringing on couples, and it's like you're letting the other half of your couple like tattoo something permanently on your body, and they're just fucking each other over. It's a show. It is ridiculous.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
No.
Can you imagine? I'm like, what? I don't understand. That's a whole other thing. Sorry. Okay. He does a lot of stand-up, or he used to anyway, with someone named Mike Furman, and they used to do a comedy duo called Hard and Firm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In February 2010, he started the Nerdist podcast. If you're listening to us, you probably know what Nerdist is, because it was insanely it still is like really popular podcast. And it turned into this kind of nerd media empire. It was like bought by Legendary Entertainment and now like a whole thing. And then he became kind of the face of AMC, so he was like, he hosted something called The Talking Dead that was on after The Walking Dead. And then he did one for Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And he was kind of like this go-to guy for like Comic-Con panels and stuff like that. So that's who this dude is. Honestly, he's a pretty basic white dude. Sorry. I've seen his stand-up like on Comedy Central and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. He's fine. Like there's funny jokes, but he's not like super special. Like,
no,
I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but maybe I do want to be a dick, but he's not super special. Anyway, in June 14th, 2018, his ex-girlfriend, Chloe Dykstra, she published this essay on Medium. And in it, she alleges that she was subjected to emotional and sexual abuse. She didn't name who the ex-boyfriend was. She claimed that after they broke up, he had her career she was blacklisted in retaliation for the relationship ending. And she didn't name names, but there were kind of all these clues that it was Hardwick. We're linking to it in our show notes. It's a very upsetting post, like I said. And like anyone who's been in a relationship with that kind of emotional and sexual abuse, you're going to recognize a lot of what she's talking about. It's pretty messed up. So, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So like I said, just everyone take care of yourselves. She met Chris Hardwick in 2011 at a comic convention, and he was 20 years older than her. And he had just got out of a long-term serious relationship. So she kind of chalked up some of this bad behavior to he's going through a hard time.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And by the way, she's super young. She's 22.
Yeah.
And he's 20 years older. So he's 42 at this point. And I'm thinking about, boy, 22-year-old Sonia. It's very different than 42-year-old Sonia, and the things you would put up with when you're younger. You're lucky if you didn't have to put up with it, I feel like. But so she said within 2 weeks of getting together, he established all these rules for her. She wasn't allowed to go out at night. Her nights were reserved for him.
Oh my God.
Only him, which alienated her from her friends.
Of course.
She was not allowed to have close male friends.
Oh, Jesus.
At all. All photos of male friends were removed from her apartment. And she said this was really hard because one of her best friends was a man. Chris Hardwick is sober. He used to have a drinking problem back in the day, but he's sober now. And because he's sober, she was not allowed to drink alcohol at all. And they were out having dinner one night, and she had a glass of wine with dinner, and he's said, I noticed you had a glass of wine with dinner, and that's going to stop.
Oh,
And this one drives me nuts. She was not allowed to speak in public places. So elevators, cars with drivers, restaurants where tables were too close because he believed that people recognized him and would be listening to their conversations.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Right?
Oh my God.
He said,
over there, that's Chris Hardwick.
It's Chris Hardwick.
I bet he's saying something really interesting right now.
He's so cool. I wonder if he's giving the behind the scenes scoop on Singled Out. Fuck off, Chris Hardwick.
Oh, what an asshole.
He's a shitty boyfriend to a really high degree, like shitty boyfriend type. She said that she was expected to be, quote, ready for him when he got home from work. And then she says, how did this happen? At the beginning of our relationship, I was quite ill, often due to my diet, something I'll get into in a bit. And one night he initiated, and I said, I'm sorry. Can we not tonight? I'm feeling really sick. And he said, I just want to remind you the reason my last relationship didn't work out was because of the lack of sex.
Ugh.
And it was a veiled threat. And she said every night she laid there for him and occasionally in tears, and that he thought it was funny.
Oh, God.
Isn't it?
I've had friends who've had boyfriends like that. Like super
Yes,
controlling.
I have
know.
too.
I know. It's bringing back a lot. Oh, my God.
I know. Like I said, that there were a lot of eating disorders. So she said that when cameras were on them, he was a real prince. And when they were off, he was a total nightmare. And that this is super common in people in these kind of relationships. She wants some sort of control on her life. So she developed this eating disorder. She lost 15 pounds in a week.
Oh, my God.
At one point. There's photos in her blog post, and she looks so skinny, like really upsetting skinny. It's really sad. She said she started pulling out her own hair and that she had to get extensions to hide it, and that she got to a point where she didn't speak unless spoken to, and that she was drifting through life like a ghost. It's really,
my God.
She said, I lost my period for a year because of anorexia, and somehow she got pregnant, but it was like an atopical pregnancy, which is, it can be fatal. You could die from these things, and the embryo isn't where it's supposed to be, so it could be like in your fallopian tubes and things like that. She went to the hospital and she had to get surgery, and she called him first and said, please don't be mad at me. I have to have surgery and I have to have it removed or it could kill me. And she said that she was so afraid that he would be mad at her for like getting pregnant. That was like her bigger fear than dying. I know. And she had the surgery and she's in the hospital room and she's resting. And the doctor comes in and he says, like, the surgery went well, she'll be fine. And her mother was there and she said, oh, thank God. And then Chris Hardwick asked, that's great. When can I have sex? This was the first question, and her mother never
Say that
forgot.
again. Can you say that again? You dropped out on me.
The doctor came in and told them like the surgery went well, she will be fine. And her mother was there and her mother said, oh, thank God, she's going to be okay. And then Chris Hardwick asks, when do you think I can have sex with her again?
Oh, God, what an asshole.
His first fucking question. Other shitty things. He screamed at her for spilling water in a rental car. He screamed at her because she gasped at a cute puppy, which startled him. First of all, what kind of monster doesn't gasp at a cute puppy?
Yeah, and just, Christ's sakes, like everything is about you. I mean, come on.
Yeah. So eventually, she worked up the strength to leave him. And when she did, he called the companies that she did work for, and he got her fired by threatening to never work with them again. And she found it very hard to get work after they broke up. She writes this post. She didn't name him, but it went viral. People knew it was very obviously him. Mm-hmm. And then like all these Nerdist employees came out on Twitter and started speaking to the media too about what a prick he is. So like someone said, this is a quote, waking up to news that your shitty racist former boss who helped mainstream the toxic self-victimization of white male nerd culture finally being outed as a garbage person by his abused ex-girlfriend is somewhat cathartic, to say the least.
Oh my God.
R.I.P. Chris Hardwick's career.
Yeah, well.
I'm like, ugh. Someone else has said Chris Hardwick is trash, and I believe women. She used to work for them. Another employee told The Wrap that nobody was surprised when this came out, and that everyone can think back to incidents with Chris that line up to something in that story.
Wow.
You don't see anybody saying that's not the Hardwick I know, because that, and then another source confirmed that, like, yes, if you crossed him in any way, he would do everything he could to make it hard for you to find work.
Jesus, what an asshole.
He's a total asshole. Another former employee said that Hardwick, when he was still working at the Nerdist, was really only focused on like higher profile projects like Talking Dead and things like that. And then he would show up just to like shit all over everybody and beat up on them. And then, but if they succeeded at anything, he took credit for it. He wasn't, I hate people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So her post comes out, the internet blows up. Nerdist removes like all mentions of Chris Hardwick from their website. And they released this statement saying that like, we don't support this kind of behavior and he hasn't worked here in years. We're going to do an investigation here. And then AMC does the same thing. They're like, we're going to do an investigation, and they pull him off of Talking Dead and Breaking Bad and all that shit that he hosts that I don't watch. Mm-hmm. He released a statement, Chris Hardwick, and he denies it. Our 3-year relationship was not perfect. We were ultimately not a good match and argued, even shouted at each other, but I loved her and did my best to uplift and support her as a partner and a companion. And no time did I sexually assault her. Maybe, but probably not, because so then a few days later, TMZ just somehow got these like post-breakup texts between her and Chris Hardwick, and it's totally her reaching out to him, kind of trying to get back together with him. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like this is another example. This is like something, it's not uncommon for people in abusive relationships. It's super common.
It is, because you get used to it, and the unknown is scarier than the known. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, and you
Right.
also you feel like without this person, I'm worthless. You know, how do I move on from that? And my heart breaks for her. It's terrible. And everybody makes bad judgments. And when nope, what do they say in Seinfeld? The first breakup never takes. Like people,
Right.
do get back together, and you think like, oh, he'll change or something. Like that's real shitty of him to release that.
Yeah. Because he did. Like, it's not like did. And I think he thought it was helping his case. I don't really think it did, but whatever. 3 of his ex-girlfriends and his current wife, Linda Hurst, defended him. Said he was never abusive with them. And I'm sure he wasn't.
What? He wasn't.
I'm like, I personally don't put a lot of stock into those kind of testimonials. He never abused me, therefore he didn't abuse her.
Right.
Like,
it doesn't mean it never happened to anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the women who date OJ are like, well, he didn't kill me.
Right.
I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are you people? I hate it too. For like 5 minutes, Chris Hardwick was canceled. So little over a month after that post was published, AMC did their own investigation. Sure they did. And it failed to confirm any of her stuff. And he came back as host of Talking Dead and all the other various shows that he hosts there. But several staffers quit, including an executive producer named Jen Patton. They just didn't feel like they could stay after what came out about him. They obviously believed her.
Yeah.
And had seen things. Well, Chloe issued a statement after it saying, I 100% stand by every single word of my essay. I made sure it was unembellished, factual, and I had evidence to back up in order to protect myself in case of actual litigation, not a network investigation where I am not protected.
Right.
That is all. This is a network investigation where they're looking to protect their own interests, not her.
Right.
They're not interested in justice. So she didn't really participate in their investigation. They were going to go this way anyway, probably.
Yeah, she probably was like, she probably wouldn't be able to bring a lawyer with her. Or,
yeah.
She was like, fuck.
And we've seen stuff like this with Ronan Farrow's stories about like what went on with Matt Lauer at NBC. Like the networks are looking to protect themselves. They're not looking to like get to the truth,
Yeah, and he's a big star for that network. He was anyway. I don't know if he still is, but...
Yeah, I mean, he still hosts those shows. I don't watch those shows, so I don't see him anymore, which is fine by me. In September 2018, Dykstra did an interview with Time magazine, and she said that after that post, she was attacked relentlessly by fanboys and organized people. Yeah, and this is like the ugliest side of like nerd fandom, how shitty they can be. There is like a really toxic male side to fandom.
Oh yeah.
And she, said it got to the point where they were bullying her that, she actually considered suicide. I feel really fucking terrible for her.
Oh God.
And that she said, when I found out he had gotten his jobs back, I was actually relieved because I knew the online harassment wasn't going to stop until he was reinstated.
And she's not wrong.
Yeah.
That's what's depressing. And it's not okay.
No.
But she's right. If he had been fired for that, they would be even worse towards her.
I know. I feel really bad for her. And I just, I know that some people might chime in and say, well, this is like a he said, she said. And I believe her.
Yeah.
The truth is, I have no trouble believing that he's an asshole and that he was a huge asshole to her. And I don't think she's lying.
No, and you and I have been like, you get a certain age in life that even if you don't go through this kind of a relationship, somebody who did.
Yep.
And all the red flags are there. And and I feel terrible for her. I feel terrible if anybody's not believed. And then, people want all this. Oh God. Well, we'll talk about with my next creep because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. Ugh. I mean, like, I don't know if there's maybe a road to redemption for Chris Hardwick. Like maybe there is, but I believe her. So I think he's a fucking creep.
He's not funny either, by the way. Doug Benson had a comedy special on Comedy Central, and he had like some of his buddies, and Chris Hardwick and Adam Carolla, two guys. They had big segments, and I'm like, neither one of these motherfuckers is even slightly interesting, much less funny. And all he does on stage, Chris Hardwick, is he like just curses, like fuck, like he just like
that's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh god. And this guy I'm going to talk about next, same thing. I'm just like, ugh, so basic, like basic bitches in comedy. I'm over it.
I'm ready. Let's do the next one.
All right, here we go. I just realized what you said. I should say trigger warnings. We're going to be talking about someone who's going to be about sexual assault and grooming by a predator. For me, the trigger is that this asshole has my birthday. I'm really mad. We're talking about Chris D'Elia. I think that's how you say his name. Yeah. I really don't care.
Who cares?
He's born March 29th, 1980. He's the one bad Aries, okay? The one bad March 29th, okay?
That's his new comedy album, One Bad Aries.
Oh no, he had one album that was called White Man Black Comedy.
Oh, brother.
I know. I just like want to vomit. Okay. My sources, Wikipedia, of course, CNN, New York Times, LA Times, and Variety. Chris D'Elia is an actor, podcaster, and stand-up comic who may be best known for his roles in the Whitney Cummings show, Whitney, which I really wanted to like because I like Whitney, but it wasn't funny. NBC's Undateable, Comedy Central's Workaholics. He played a pedophile in one episode. And,
hilarious.
Yeah, and most recently, he was a cast member on the Netflix show You, which I've never seen. It's having its third season soon, but on the second season, he had several episodes where he played a character who is a stand-up comedian who grooms underage women and then drugs and rapes them. So he's had several comedy specials, and his podcast, Congratulations with Chris D'Elia, was super popular. He called his audience babies. And comedy is super subjective, for sure. But this whole thing of like men in their late 30s, early 40s, pushing 50, and still doing the dude bro thing just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Some people eat that shit up, but I just tell funny jokes. I don't need your wacky thing you do in every show. It gets just for me, it just gets very tiresome. And there's so many podcasts I find out when I'm doing the research here with male comedians or people who wish they were comedians, all this bro talk and all of this. Here's the subject today. This Me Too movement. Has it going too far?
Fuck off.
Shut the fuck up. I mean, it was like, 20 years ago, women's lib, or 30 years ago, women's lib. Yeah. Is that going too far? 20 years ago. PC. Is that going too far? Yeah. Are white men being inconvenienced in any way, shape, or fucking form? We need to talk about it. Everyone else can fuck off. We curse a lot, by the way.
Oh, yeah, FYI.
So he's on, I never found him funny. I always found him a little creepy looking. He's just not for me. On June 20th this year, the LA Times reported that he's 40 years old now. He had a history of sexual impropriety with minors and using social media. They started with a then, and these women gave their names in the LA Times article, but it was Julia Holtzman. She was 17 when he started contacting her on Instagram. He knew full well she was a teenager. He would ask her to come and see his stand-up shows, and they had a texting email relationship. She kept the screenshots for years just in case. Another young girl, her name was Simone, she posted on Twitter messages that she got from Chris D'Elia when she was 16. He asked her to send him pictures of herself and told her that he wanted to make out with her, was always trying to meet up with her. She managed to get rid of him by finding a boyfriend her own age, which pissed him off. No, he's such an asshole. Another thread that went viral around this time is a social media person who goes by the handle She Rates Dogs. And, okay. She received hundreds of messages about him and his misbehavior of women over the years. And she started just posting screenshots. D'Elia had a special on Netflix. And by the way, Netflix, find funny people. His special is called no pain. And I was like, it should be subtitled no laughs gained either, because it sucks. It's so joke free. It's so, oh my God. But so these posts start coming out on social media. There's the LA Times story. And he says at the time, I have never knowingly pursued any underage women. And that's how I put it, women. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as an underage woman, by the way.
Correct.
And that all of his relationships have been legal and consensual. Sure, Jam. Mm-hmm. He also then says, I was a dumb guy who absolutely got caught up in my lifestyle. And basically did the Louis C.K. thing. I'm going to take a step back for a while. And he actually has. We haven't heard from him. Mm-hmm. But other allegations that also came forward after this story, there was the time he invited fans into his hotel room, and then he exposed his erect penis to them. And,
nice.
Yeah. Here's the thing you should also know about him. He doesn't drink and he doesn't use drugs, but he encourages women to drink.
Of course he does.
So he can't go to rehab, or if he makes any, he can't make that as an excuse. Another time, a 19-year-old fan, 19, okay, adult, but he's, once again, he's like 40.
Yes.
She was told she could meet him after a show if she promised to have oral sex with his friend, to give his friend oral sex. He wrote to her, I want you to suck my friend tonight. Will you do that for me? She's like, ugh. And then she started receiving messages from that guy. And he's an older man. And he said, like, Chris is my best friend. And he just wanted to check her out and make sure that she was legit enough for Chris.
Fuck that. What?
Right? So he asks for her address. And she's like, fuck you. I'm not giving you my address. He winds up going all over Encino trying to find this girl. Can't find her. So Chris sends her a series of angry texts for avoiding his best friend. He sends her the texts. Right.
Who are these people? I don't even understand. Like, I would never do this.
No.
I would never text someone and be like, hey, I want you to come over and
all these
go down on my friend Margo.
Yeah.
I would never do that. I know you want me to do that, Margo, but I would never do that.
I mean, no. But honestly, it's just the media, of course, has to ask Whitney Cummings to comment because she's responsible for his whole fucking life because she was on one show. Doesn't ask Patton Oswalt or any other male comedians. Yes. She said, look, I was appalled. I'm enraged about it. I want women to be able to enjoy comedy and not be targets of sexual assault. This should not even be a question. And then I loved it because a couple of days later, she put out on Twitter that she wanted to thank her male peers, for telling her how brave she is in a private message. Like none of her guy friends are just coming right out and like just saying this is wrong and fucked up. It's so, ugh.
The same shit happened with Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, well, what does Sarah Silverman have to say? I'm like, fuck you. What does Chris Rock have to say?
Exactly.
Like,
women,
whatever.
There's this long tradition of women having to answer for men's shitty behavior. And it's just got to fucking stop.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. So there's an amazing clip on YouTube. And it's Chris D'Elia. And he's on a show. It's a podcast, and they were talking about a teenage boy, and his teacher was hitting on him and trying to lure him. The mother found his phone, and they called the cops, and so they did it as a story. They're always like the hot for teacher kind of dumb guy thing. And so Chris D'Elia just says, so how did they find out about this? And the person off camera says, oh, well, she was talking to him over Snapchat. And so he saved the screen. He goes, no, Snapchat goes away. And she goes, no, you could save the screen. You could save the text. You could save all that information. And Chris D'Elia's face is like, fuck. What? And somebody put it to the theme of Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's delicious. It's delicious.
I love that so much.
It's on YouTube. Look up Chris D'Elia, Curb Your Enthusiasm. He will thank me later because fuck that guy.
Seriously, fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. So here's the update on him. In September 2020, actress Megan Durst said that in 2011, Delia said, she said to him, they were at some like group event, and she said she would give him a lift home from the restaurant. And she thought he was in the friend zone or whatever. Mm-hmm. She just labeled him an ally because, oh, he seems nice and other people like him. You know, we do that. We make those judgments. When they get to her car, he all of a sudden stares at her and he points to his crotch and says, "Do you want to touch my dick?" And she's like, "No." And he takes it out and masturbates right there.
I have, yeah, okay.
And then,
sure, like you do.
And she said when he was done, he zipped up his pants and he looked at her and then just walked away. And it's like, ugh.
Fucking creep.
Another woman, she was a hotel manager in Ohio. I think this was in 2015. Chris Delia was staying at the hotel, and he called the front desk and said, "Hey, can someone come up here and check my air conditioning? It's not working." So she comes upstairs. He greets her at the door, totally naked.
Jesus. Woman's just trying to do her job.
A woman trying to do her fucking job. So she left right away, and she went back to her desk, and he called her again to ask her to come up to his room, and she just hung up on him. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like the fucking ugh. Anyway, he denies most of what he's been accused of.
Even though there's screenshots?
And there's screenshots, man. He has not been on social media at all since this came down in June. But also what happened was he was dropped by his agents at CAA. And he had a show set for Netflix, and it was a prank show. And he was going to co-host it with a man named Brian Callen, who's also a comedian. He was on Mad TV, and they've done a lot of podcasts together. And then shit just came out about that asshole.
Oh, my God.
But that's going to have to be saved for another day. But that's our, I mean, Jesus Christ. That guy will definitely be an episode one day.
Yeah.
But that's my second creep today, Chris Delia, and fuck you for having my birthday, asshole.
Yeah, asshole.
Ugh.
What an asshole. I do appreciate all the women in this story who are like, I'm not doing that. Fuck you.
And the younger girls, like, or, you know, the teenage girls, their moms, like, they showed their moms, and their mom's like, this is fucked up. Like, they have witnesses, you idiot. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway. Fuck him.
Thinks he's such a big star that women are like, yeah, I'm into it. And the truth is, it might have worked on, like, a lot of other women. But I appreciate that on some of these girls, they were like, what? No.
If you are, I used to follow comedy. I was really into comedy. I mean, if you're halfway decent looking, you can get laid as a comedian. It's not a challenge, you know?
Right.
But that's not enough for him. You know, there's a lot like Bill Cosby and a lot of them. Like, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck him.
Alternate name for the What a Creep podcast, by the way, was seriously fuck that guy. You ready to hear about our last creep?
Yes, I hear it's a lady.
It's a lady creep. It's Victoria Jackson. My sources are USA Today, Miami News Times, The Salon, just The Salon. I just went to get my hair
under the hair dryer.
Women. Yeah, and they were just talking about her, so I wrote it down. No, Salon, and of course Wikipedia always. Victoria Jackson, probably best known for appearing on Saturday Night Live. She was on it from 1986 to 1992. She did a couple of movies. She did UHF, which I love.
Love that movie.
I love UHF. She did I Love You to Death. She did Baby Boom. We love Baby Boom.
She's great in that.
Yeah, we did an episode of that on Dorking Out. It's really good. And she also did Casual Sex.
Which I love.
Yeah, which I haven't seen since it came out, but I remember really liking at the time and being kind of surprised. And she was good in that too.
Yeah,
this is a real
yeah,
it's a bummer. She's probably better known now for being a conservative Christian nutbag with a Twitter account filled with retweets of James Woods' anti-mask lies and other conspiracy theories. And I do want to say, I guess this is my trigger warning. I'm not saying that if you're conservative or religious, you're a nutbag. I'm saying she's a conservative Christian nutbag. That's what I'm saying. You can have faith. You can be a conservative. It's fine. But she's a fucking nutbag. So let's start at the beginning. Victoria Jackson was born August 2nd, 1959 in Miami. She was raised in a conservative Baptist household. And I mention this because I think there's this idea that she somehow used to be like kind of like a Dennis Miller. Like Dennis Miller used to be pretty liberal and then became very conservative. Mm-hmm. Victoria Jackson was always pretty conservative and then went more that way. So she was raised in a really conservative Baptist household. Her father, Jim Jackson, was a physical education teacher and a gymnastics coach. And he sounds like a real fucking piece of work. He required her to do gymnastics 5 days a week. She went to church 3 times a week. He turned their backyard into a gym. She could do a handstand at age 4. And if you remember on Saturday Night Live, she used to do these things on Weekend Update all the time where she would be in like back bends or stand on her head and like recite poetry and like all this shit. Like she could do all that shit.
She was adorable too.
She was really cute. You know, she went to college and she was interested in acting. And some acting teacher there was like, you'll never be an actor because your voice is too weird and you know, you're not good enough or something. And she was like, nah, fuck that. And she like packed up her shit and went to Hollywood. And, you know, she got work. It's my favorite. I have to point this out. In 1984, she married a fire-eating magician.
You love magicians.
Fucking hate magicians. I hate them so much. I think they're so creepy. He's the whole package, ladies. He was a fire eater. He was a sword swallower. And he played the piano while in blackface.
Oh, great. Oh,
yeah.
Jesus.
Oh, he's a triple threat. So they got married. They had a daughter named Scarlett, and she was born in 1986. And like right after that, she joined SNL. Around this time, I mean, you might remember when she was on. I'm sure you do, Margo, but I'm talking to our listeners. She did impersonations, Roseanne Barr and Sally Struthers and Zsa Zsa Gabor. She wasn't really known for her impersonation skills. It was really more like the stuff she would do on like Weekend Update. There was a lot of really talented cast members then. It was like Dana Carvey, John Lovitz, Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, Nora Dunn, Julia Sweeney. They were all people that like wrote their own sketches, and she didn't really do that.
She used to write songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had like a ukulele. Right. Yeah, and she would like sing it, but with Dennis Miller, she would sing him some songs. That was her big thing.
I would say that she was definitely outshined by those other people, but she was there, you know, she was there for 6 years. That's a good run on Saturday Night Live. So while she was there, she tried to convert her fellow cast members to God, which, you know, isn't annoying at all. Apparently, Phil Hartman, he was like, I don't really want to talk about the Son of God. She one time asked John Lovitz asked her, like, if, you know, how could Jesus fit in his mother's womb if he was a grown man or something like that, which is so fucking Lovitz. It's like, what a fucking dope, like in a funny way, of course. She left everybody audio cassettes of the Bible in their mail slot for Christmas, and they were all like returned to her. Julia Sweeney tells a story about walking into an argument between Victoria Jackson and Al Franken. And she said they're sitting there and they're just steaming a little bit. And all of a sudden, Al leans forward and he says to her, Victoria, surely as a Christian, you care about people's health care. Surely you would believe in that. And that she said, well, if people died sooner, then they will go to heaven sooner.
Oh, God.
And that Julia Sweeney started laughing because she thought it was a joke. And that Victoria Jackson was not joking. And she said, no, they will meet Jesus sooner. Wow. And apparently Al Franken really, really tried to convert her to like reasonable, to more logical thinking. Because there's like a thing about he was very offended by her ditzy act. And she said to him, maybe I'm overcompensating because everybody here is dying and going to hell, and I'm supposed to tell them about Jesus. And that after that, he never talked to her again.
I could picture that. Oh my God.
Yeah. So surprise, in 1991, she got divorced from the fire eater.
Sorry.
And then I wrote, I guess he burned through all of her money. Fire isn't cheap, y'all. Shortly after that, she connected with this old like high school sweetheart who was a SWAT team member in the Miami-Dade Police Department. They had a daughter in 1994, but shortly after she met him, she quit SNL and she moved to Miami. And then she kind of got involved in politics in 2007, and this is where she starts getting even more creepy. She said she voted for the first time at age 37 to vote against President Bill Clinton, and she asked her husband how to vote. He told her how to vote, which is super cool. And then beginning in 2008, Jackson said that she believed Barack Obama was a communist. In 2015, she spread conspiracy theories that Obama was Muslim or an Islamic jihadist who supported the Islamic State, that he had Muslim Brotherhood members in his cabinet. She's very anti-Muslim. She's very obsessed with Muslims. And there's a quote from her that says, "Frankly, I'm afraid to say anything about Muslims because they kill people."
Wow.
Yeah. And then she says, "Why do liberals embrace Sharia law even though beheading your wife seems to go against the feminist movement?"
That's like a word salad going on there. There's a lot. Yeah. Oh my.
A Muslim man moved into her neighborhood, and she wrote a post on her website called "Civilization Jihad Hits Home My Backyard Literally." And she wrote all this fucked up shit about Muslims. And the local news interviewed this Muslim man, and he said she has friends who support her, and it's making this a very scary place for us to live.
Oh shit.
And then she responded, "He's afraid of me. According to statistics, I should be afraid of him." She's such an asshole. So she doesn't just hate Muslims, though. She hates gay people, too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, when Glee was on, she was freaking out because there were gay people on it.
Really?
There's gay people on Glee. What?
In the
What a scoop.
21st century, you're really upset about that?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Excuse me. Ugh.
She's an asshole. This is another one that really upset me. After the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012, she said, "Wasn't the Connecticut killer just doing what abortionists do every day?"
Oh, fuck you.
Right.
Fuck you to hell. Oh my God. Ugh.
Yeah. It made me so angry. And then she said, "It's a wonder we don't have more 20-year-old, quote, dads doing what women and doctors have been an accomplice to for years in America."
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh, Jesus.
Fuck anyone who uses that to say shit like that. It boils my blood. It like makes me so incredibly angry. If you go to her Twitter feed now, like I said, it's really all fucking Trump anti-mask bullshit. For work, she appears to be doing a lot of like direct to streaming, low budget Christian movies. Surprisingly, none of them star Kirk Cameron. I was a little surprised because I did look. I was like, surely there's someone I recognize in these. No. And then she has a YouTube channel, and it has a whopping 220 subscribers.
Jesus.
So that's our last creep. That's Victoria Jackson.
Such a bummer because she was so cute on Saturday Night Live. I love casual sex. She's so good in that, and
No.
I know she's really talented. She was on Celebrity Fit Club like 10 years
Oh, really?
ago. Yeah, it's the show on VH1. It was celebrities trying to lose weight, and it was like Willie Ames and her, and then the guy from Warrant. It was really like this crazy mix of people, and she seemed nice. Like she does have that like ditzy kind of quality about her, but underneath she's just, oh God.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm fine if people are conservative or if they're religious. That's fine. It's when you're like trying to force your shit on other people.
Yeah, but when you conflate things too, the murder of children, in a school versus abortion. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
It's super fucked up, and especially the way the families of Sandy Hook had to put up with that Alex Jones bullshit.
He's a future episode, but I can't control my rage.
Yeah.
We have to wait on that one.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Well, good job, Sonia. Should we go to our non-creeps?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't
Who's
know.
yours?
So mine it's actually a pair. The women from All Killa No Filla, the podcast.
Oh, good one.
It's Kiri Pritchard McLean and Rachel Fairburn. Support women in comedy and women that are, funny, smart, and they're interesting. And they talk about murder on their shows, and they talk about one of them talking about like the family got this little horse, a Shetland horse, and they thought it was pregnant, but it was just fat, and they couldn't get it to this. Like, I'm sorry, I wish they put up more episodes. It's once a month, but they're definitely sign up for them. Kiri Pritchard, McLean, Rachel Fairburn. Follow them on Instagram. They also did charity events like while we're all in lockdown. They're just amazing and smart and funny and cool, and that's what we should be supporting. So those are my not creeps this week.
That's a really good pick. I went with Dana Carvey.
Oh,
who I think Dana Carvey's stand-up is really, really funny. And he is a local guy. He actually lives in Mill Valley. He grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so maybe I have like an emotional attachment. But the reason I picked him was because there's two things. One, after he had two children, he kind of like took a step back from Hollywood, which I always find very interesting. And he says, my wife and I made these two humans. So I thought I probably should make some adjustments based on the two humans being there, which makes sense to me. Like, I mean, he was making, Wayne's World and all those. He made so much money off of that. And instead of like trying to like push it in the next thing, he was like, or maybe I'll just do this. And, did his thing with his kids. If you haven't seen, there is a documentary on Netflix. I know, Margo, you've seen it, called Too Funny to Fail.
yes.
Which is about the like 7 episodes of the Dana Carvey show in like 96. And the documentary is awesome, but it's all about like how fucking weird that show was and how crazy it is who was on it. So it was Charlie Kaufman, Greg Daniels, who did like The Office,
Stephen Colbert,
Stephen Carell, Robert Carlock, who did 30 Rock, and Louis C.K., I think, wrote for that. And then there was one other, Robert Smigel, thank you, who did Ambiguously Gay Duo and does Triumph, who fucking slays me every time. So one was he took the step back from Hollywood to raise his kids, which I think is something that like women do all the time, and you don't read about men doing it. So I kind of like that. But the other thing that was crazy is, so in 97, he underwent heart surgery. Do you know the story?
Oh, yeah. Tell it.
This is bananas. So he had a heart bypass surgery for like a blocked artery, and they did the surgery on the wrong artery.
I mean,
that's like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the blocked artery, deeply buried, like in the muscle, it was hard to find. So they found this other artery, and it wasn't blocked, but it was accessible. So he performed the bypass on the unblocked artery and then stitched him up. And we're like, we did it. And then because of that, it didn't work.
No, yeah, I can imagine.
Imagine that. So like they had to do the surgery again. And he sued them for $7.5 million in damages, and he won. And then he donated all the money to charity.
That's rad.
Yeah. So he had to do all these additional surgeries. And then he told Newsday that he was in the hospital for like his final procedure. And like right across the hall from him was the room that Frank Sinatra was in.
Oh.
And that Frank Sinatra died in his room. But Dana Carvey didn't.
No.
But I love that he donated I love that he donated the money. That was the big thing.
He seems like such a good person.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And, he still does work. He does a lot of voiceover stuff. Like if you've seen like Secret Lives of Pets, or there's like a second one that I don't like as much, but he's just fucking funny. Like his old stand-up is really funny. And I still quote a lot of Dana Carvey around in my daily life, like the chop in broccoli and
him as Garth in Wayne and Garth and Wayne's World. It's one of my favorite things. I quote him all the time from that movie.
You're gonna spew
in this. And they got a pool table too. I can quote that all day long.
We're gonna bump Wayne's World up on the list. I think we need some Wayne's World in our life.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, so that's our special season 8 beginner. We always talk about we get a foursome slice of creepitude, and it's more than a slice. I think we have a whole pie for each of them.
Gosh.
I'm a little tired right now, not to be, I got to tell you guys, but it was totally worth it. And I'm glad I got that out of my system. So we will be back next week with a new creep. Be sure to follow us on all the things, be the Facebook group. We love it on Twitter. If you have an idea for a creep or a non-creep, we always need ideas for non-creeps, by the way. Those are sometimes the toughest ones for us to come up with. Either send us an email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com, or do it on Twitter @CreepPod. We love it when you use the Andy Potts gif from Ghostbusters. We got one. Follow us on Instagram, What a Creep Podcast. And also, if you like the sound of our voices, Sonia and I co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. And I am super excited about our next episode because we're going to be talking about 1985's Fright Night.
I'm excited. We're watching it tonight. We are celebrating Scary Movie Month, so we're doing some scary movies. And I haven't seen Fright Night in a long time, so I'm really, really excited to revisit.
I'm super excited. Should you tell them about Scary Movie Month?
That's over at F This Movie, and everybody watches scary movies, and they write 7-word reviews of those scary movies. So if you go to fthismovie.com and click on whatever day you want, and you can read the reviews, and they're always really, really funny. It brings me joy reading those reviews, and it's just so fun to get other ideas from people, what they're watching, and maybe add it onto your list. So join in the fun. We are.
Yeah, totally. So Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram, where I post photos of bread. Margo, where can people find you?
You can find me on social media at Brooklyn Fit Chick, mostly for Twitter and Instagram, where I post pictures of my cats.
They're the cutest.
They're the cutest in Brooklyn. And my blog is brooklynfitchick.com. We'll be back next week with a new episode. So in the meantime, don't be a creep.
Creep.
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.